I'm Corbitt with DVAuction, here with your feeder flash for Tuesday, October the 22nd. Brought to you in part by Therapiece, that revolutionary product that is scientifically proven. Recent studies show if Therapiece is applied to cattle before the stress of transporting them to the feedlot, it drastically increases average daily gain. Therapiece should be applied before every management stressor on cattle. For more information, go to Therapiece.com. Also, Beaver County Stockyards, Beaver, Oklahoma. Another good sale for them here on Tuesday. Going to have 4,000 head, maybe 3,800, but be close to 4,000 head there. Have 1,800 calves there. Only about 10% of them weaned, but over 80% of them having at least one round of shots there. They've got at least 5 long strings of calves. They're going to be ranging from 1 to 400 in total. So you can buy some long strings of calves there, guys, if you want to. Try to keep them together and not mix them up too much. Going to have 1,600 yearlings there, mostly all steers. They get maybe a couple hundred yearling heifers, most of them weighing in the 6 and 7s, but 12 to 1,400 yearling feeder steers. They'll be weighing mostly from 800 to 1,000 pounds with at least 15 square loads of 9 and 10 weight yearling steers there, guys. Then they got a few smaller groups of grazing type yearlings if you're looking for something like that. They have about 500 cows on Wednesday for the cow sale. They're going to have 80 head of red Angus shortbred running age cows there if you're interested in those. So don't forget about Beaver County Stockyards. They're going to start at 7 o'clock here on Tuesday morning for the feeder sale, and then 8 o'clock on Wednesday for the weigh-up cow sale and the few replacements that they have. Next week, going to have a huge sale. They're thinking maybe 7,000 or 8,000. So just think about Beaver County Stockyards. If you're interested in viewing or bidding on that sale, get on to DVAuction.com. Frost Timberline. And you guys know what the timberline is. When you talk about the mountains, you get up to a point where it gets so cold that the trees don't grow anymore, and so you can see that timberline around there. Well, we don't have a timberline up through the plains, but we do have a point where we've hit frost levels, and especially hard freezes. So, and a lot of places have seen frost, but they haven't seen a hard freeze. You got to get down there about 27, 28 degrees and stay that way for a good while overnight to really have a hard freeze. But a lot of places have seen, 32 degrees or less. But you can noticeably see also the calves are fancier up there in that upper part of the country. But up in the Dakotas where they've had a frost, up there in the higher parts of Nebraska and Iowa, places like that, when you get above that frost timberline, your demand for calves is much improved. And of course you get bigger, longer strings of them up there, but and that may be a coincidence, but I think it has a lot to do with it also. But a lot of people are going up there and buying calves up in that part of the country, even maybe to bring down to wheat or bring down to some type of a preconditioned yard. A lot of farmer feeders are going to buy big calves up there and just put them right on silage and then add corn to it and just feed them completely out right there. And a lot of your farmer feeders like to buy fancy calves and feed them all the way out. They can make them really high in quality if they do it that way. But you get down into the southern plains, you get down into southwest Missouri, you get down into Kansas, you get in Oklahoma, even in Texas and places, and we haven't seen a hard frost there. And of course you get a lot of smaller groups and some plainer calves also, but people are not as excited about buying those, and a lot of them are getting sick. But we noticed that in your trends about how especially your bigger calves, a lot of those that are big enough to go right to feed, not so much your little stalker calves and your peewees, but the bigger calves, the demand for those falling off quite a bit this week. Even though the demand for yearling feeders, especially grass yearling, is really good. But I'm going to be going into Missouri this week, pretty much all week, guys. If you ever If you live in and around the lower half of Missouri and you ever thought you wanted to come to one of my presentations or something like that, or just go to a group and be involved in that group that was watching one of my presentations, this is the week to do it. I tell you what, I've got speaking gigs lined up, and it just worked out perfect there. Today on Tuesday, or tonight actually, this evening, I'm going to be in Wardville, Missouri, close to Jefferson City there, and that's with the Cole Cattlemen's group there, Cole County. On Thursday, I'm going to be in Rogersville, actually on Thursday morning, with FCS Financial. On Friday, I'm going to be up or down in Houston, Missouri. That's Texas County Cattlemen's down there, and that is going to be sponsored by Ozarks Regional Stockyard. Again, looking forward to seeing my old friends from there. And then on Saturday, going to be at Hickory County at Wheatland, Missouri. So I'll be giving a talk there and hanging out with the group there. And then the next Monday, going to be at the Buck Ridge Cattle Sale, and that is going to be in Seymour, Missouri there, with Mark Hayden and his family there. They've got Angus bulls and Limflex bulls there, so I'm going to be attending that sale. So if you guys don't look out, you might run into me if you're in below the river in Missouri this week. But looking forward to seeing a lot of old friends. I've spent a lot of time in Missouri and know a lot of people around. But I don't know if you guys saw, and I almost hate to bring it up, because last week I said, they were talking about us supposed to be getting that big rain in the southern plains, and I saw a nationwide map that said flooding risks, but it was in like southeast Colorado, western Kansas, maybe places like that. And I said, well, bring on the floods, because we can sure stand it, because you got a little bit of topography there and you could stand floods pretty good. Well, in eastern New Mexico, they can't stand it. And Roswell really took a devastating hit by the floods. They're just not used to getting rain like that in Roswell, New Mexico. You guys know how dry it is there. In and around Roswell area, they had 6 inches of rain, almost 6 inches of rain on Saturday, and that broke a 123-year-old record, and it was a killer. There was at least 2 people that died in there. Their cars got washed out, and they either drowned in there or got hurt somewhere or another. But it was devastating floods in and around Roswell, and I just wanted to mention that because I know a lot of you guys have seen it on the news and things. But I hate it that I said bring on that flood, because I knew we could stand it further up north. The forecasters just missed it by a few hundred miles there, and I wish I was a forecaster, because if I was as bad at my job as they are theirs, I mean, I think we would all say we'd been fired a long time ago. But glad to get the moisture. I know a lot of people, a lot of ranchers and producers in northeastern New Mexico. I'm from northeastern New Mexico, and they were all really tickled to get the rain, but they just could not handle it. Not that much of it in Roswell, and the city did not fare well from it, guys. Heard some other news that was given to me by a Feeder Flash gang member. Sent me an email on Monday. Didn't know if I was aware that the FPL cow plant in Augusta, Georgia has laid off 250 employees and has drastically reduced their slaughter. That, we've been talking about how tight the cow numbers were for way up cows. And especially out east, and you got Brown Pack and some of the others out there that get really aggressive, and the cows have been running really high just through way up pound cows. And I guess it was so much that FPL decided they would kind of bow out a little bit. Now that's a pretty nice plant there, and I'm sure they're going to keep it open, or will continue to have cow slaughtered there. I guess they just decided to back off for a while and stop competing, because packers are not real wild about having to compete with other packers for cows there, but that could change up your way up cow market in the eastern half of the United States, especially in the southeast there. But let's talk about your border, or let's talk about your board on for Monday. To open the week, October live cattle futures were down 62 cents at 187 smooth. December down a half a dollar at 186.82. It's funny to me how your live cattle futures have just been squaring up on smooth money so often. And I think it's just orders that are put in for that. It's not just loose trading, but we see pretty regular, or more regular than what would be normal, of your up and down trend coming to a square number, or the price that it settles at coming to a square number. And I just think that's kind of curious there. You talk about your back months for our October, or on your live cattle. We talked about October, we talked about December, but your back months range from 30 to 50 cents lower. Feeder cattle for October down 75 cents at 247.57. November down a dollar smooth, so down 75 cents, down a dollar. November down a dollar smooth at 246.60, and your back months were all down from 90 cents to $1.25, and that just kind of takes a toll when you start the week off on a Monday with a down futures, and it's kind of got everybody a little bit on the bear side already to start the week. Also, your grains were higher. Of course, they were down big last week, but on Monday, December corn up 4 3/4 cents a bushel at 409.5. Your November beans up 11 cents at 981. December Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 1.5 cents a bushel at 582.25. Your fat cattle trade brought to you by Legacy Beef Cooperative. Negotiated sales out of your 5-area feeding region, we saw 62,500, which is not far from typical of what we see these days. It's not a very big percentage of what's slaughtered in there or what's sold there, but 62,500 compared to 76,900 the previous week, 82,900 the same week a year ago. But live sales of fat steers and heifers in your 5-area feeding region negotiated sold from 185 to 190. Your weighted average on live steers in the 5-area was 187.61. That was 40 cents higher, and like I've been telling you, that was the 6th week in a row that we've seen higher negotiated fed cattle sales. So that we're pretty excited about that. Dress sales ranged from 295 to 304, and that 304 was a real stick out deal. There was 332 head in one whack that sold at 304, and then there wasn't anything all the way down to 296. I mean, your 90-some% of your cattle dress brought 296, and your weighted average on dress steers in the 5-area was 296.21. That was up 29 cents, so it was higher too. But as a whole, your Northern Plains market was steady to a buck higher from 187 to 188. Your dress sales were steady at 296. Southern Plain market was 1 to 2 higher last week at 188. And if you notice, there's no premium in the north for their cattle. The top end of their spread is what Southern Plains cattle are bringing. So everything bringing the same. Nationwide, we sold 78,900 last week compared to 92,600 the previous week, and 101,600 the same week a year ago. Of that 78,900, 30% of those were for the 2 to 4 week delivery. They're trying to get a few of those under their belt so they can try to get this market under wraps there. But negotiated grid sales totaled 42,200 head last week. Forward contracting totaled 19,400 head, and formula sales, which is the lion's share of them, and we really don't know what the market is on there, and it's hard to see. There's no market transparency. 281,200 head. Of the 4 out of 5 areas that we see what's going on, because Colorado we don't get to see because of confidentiality rules. Iowa sold 28,700 negotiated last week. Nebraska sold 22,400. Kansas sold 7,000, and Texas sold only 4,400. Did see a fat cattle market out east, New Holland sales stables in New Holland, Pennsylvania, Lancaster County, Pennsylvania there. They sold their top quality fat steers at a steady market from 190 to 199, and then some high dressing stick out sales up to 210. So they got a good market out east there. Their market on fat Holstein cows was steady from 120 to 136. Box beef cutout values were higher again to start this week. I told you on the last visit we've gained about $25 a hundred in the last 3 weeks on your choice fat cattle. It was up again to start the week on Monday, with choice cuts up 221 at 322.86, selects up 201 at 296.21. Slaughter started out the week on a pretty decent pace, 120,000 estimated cattle slaughter on Monday. It's exactly the same as last Monday and just 5,000 less than the same Monday a year ago. Let's talk about your feeder cattle market. Your real-time index on DVAuction based on a 800-pound cash auction steer up through your middle 12 states. Late on Monday after all the sales are closed, it was 250.21. That was 22 cents higher than what it closed the end of last week. Your latest CME cash feeder cattle index, 250.26. So I'd say that real-time index is a pretty good indicator. Just a nickel, 100 away from it, and starting to get close to the end of that spot month there. Let's talk about your big sales on Monday. Oklahoma National Stockyards in Oklahoma City. Like I told you, they're still having sales going right on like nothing's happened, even though the people that own the property have actually said that they would be interested in selling it. But we hope like crazy that thing stays open for another 130 years. Oklahoma National Stockyards, 8,500 head, so big sale for them. Yearling feeder steers weighing over 8 sold steady to $2 higher. Now big calves, that probably most of them too fleshy to take to wheat or to some kind of forage, but those that were going to feed, big calves going to feed, steady to $3 lower. Feeder heifers are steady to $2 lower. Stocker steer calves steady to $4 lower than the good market they had last week, and heifer calves are mostly steady. So a little more pressure than what I expected to see on your Monday sales, but a lot of that had to do with the board opening lower and staying lower all day. Joplin Regional Stockyards, 8,100 head for them. Very similar market trend. Yearling feeder steers there, steady to $3 higher. Everything else under pressure. Big feeding calves steady to $5 lower. Your lightweight calves were no better. Heifer calves were unevenly, but mostly lower. So that gives you, that's a good indicator that in the Southern Plains and lower Midwest, the market was about the same. Let's get up a little higher towards that Frost Timberline. How about Russell Livestock market there in Russell, Iowa? Your National BeefWire stick out sale of the day. They had about 2,800 head, and it was a good test of heavier steers for the most part. And these would be bigger steer calves and some yearlings, and a lot of the yearlings would be backgrounded in a lot. But Russell, Iowa had 320 steers in the 6-weight category. They averaged 664 with a weighted average price of $268.79. 432 head of the 7-weight steers averaged 764 at $260.45. 730 head of the 8-weight steers in Russell, Iowa averaged 834 with a weighted average price of $255.33. And 342 head of the 9-weight steers, Russell Livestock Market in Russell, Iowa, DVAuction broadcaster there, they averaged 936 at $249.12. I thought it'd only be fair to give a stick out market on some lighter calves, and that was up in South Dakota at Faith Livestock in Faith, South Dakota. They had 8,400 head, and it was mostly light steer and heifer calves there, guys. 1,999 head of 4-weight steer calves, averaged $449 with a weighted average price on 2,000 of them at $364.08. 2,767 5-weight steer calves in Faith, South Dakota averaged $549 with a weighted average price of $319.79. 484 head of 6-weight steer calves in Faith, South Dakota averaged 622 with a weighted average price of $296.85. Look at some heifers. They had 1,539 head of 4-weight heifer calves. They averaged 456 pounds with a weighted average price of $313.33. They had 942 head of 5-weight heifer calves. They averaged 533 pounds at $296.61. So pretty impressive there. John Shaban at West Point Livestock in West Point, Nebraska, he gave me the heads up on some yearling heifers that sold really well at his sale barn there. Had 120 head of yearling feeder heifers, weighed 829 with a price of $247.25 on heifers, guys. Thought that was pretty impressive. But your most impressive quotes that I saw anywhere on Monday, your Macrocin No BS top quotes for the day, come out of Sioux Falls Regional Livestock in Worthing, South Dakota. They're a DVAuction broadcaster. We're glad to help them out. They had 2 big heavy steer quotes, and I couldn't make up my mind, so I'm going to give both of them to you. They had 227 head of 842 pound steers, bring $262.50. But the one that's probably the most impressive is 102 steers, weighed 1053 at $236.25. And that's your feeder flash for Tuesday.